hang on, the guys that have gone before me, Todd Blackadder was All Black captain, Reuben Thorne, Richie, Reader, and I'm going, okay, I've got a massive, massive boots to fill here. Like, I've got to go on and play better than I have been. The responsibility is massive. So when Reader brings up the question about being suspended, that's kind of the little dig that he always has at me. But for me, I read the Captain's Class book, and what it actually really came down to is I had to be me. I didn't want to try be Blackhead. I didn't want to be Ruby. I didn't want to be Rico or Rito. I had to be me because all those leaders in that book, they led differently, and their team got the best out of. They got the best out of the team because they were them. There was no one looking at them going, "Hang on, something's up with Sam today. Like, he's acting differently or weird," because everyone's super critical, and the I can't even say the word skepticism is really, really high. So that was actually just allowed me to back myself and just be me and go out there and get stuck in. And that's what I did the first year. Then that's where the conversation started to come with, okay, we need a different type of leadership here. We need you to allow people to lead. But that book there was one thing that just hit home to go, look, be you. And then after that, it's actually really easy to put all the pieces in place.
Is that Razor's superpower too? Because he is uniquely him.
He has to be, because he can't get up there and try to be someone else, because everyone will sit there and go like, something's up with him. And it's the same as if you've never met someone before, comes in and normally the bubbly personality guy, if they're quiet in the corner, everyone's like, I just don't trust that guy, or whatever it is, or in reverse. So it's working out who you are, and then that allows you to lead in your way, and then you fill in the pieces that potentially need help with. And that's how I attacked it, and that book was the thing that definitely helped me back myself to be me.
I can understand how you'd be looking over your shoulder, looking at the names that you just rattled off alone. Like, that's some real luminaries in terms of leadership in the country.
Yeah.
It's big shoes to fill.
Oh, and that's the thing I was looking at, going, okay, do I use this as an opportunity to grow and get better, or do I let it get on top of me and go, oh, I'm not going to be as good as him, I'm not going to be as good as him, and just look at the glass half empty versus the one half full, and use it as an opportunity to grow and get better. So that's where that whole growth versus fixed mindset kind of really kicked in and helped. So then I just set some goals around it, and that definitely set me up to get the best out of the people around me, and then in return that got the best out of me.
Goal setting, like, is that, I kind of, again, I've through the book and through hearing you talk about goal setting is kind of something that you've always had as well?
Yep, so I've always had a book through rugby. I've still got them all at home. They're sitting in a pile in the office, and every year I would take time in the pre-season to write down what my goals for that year would be, and I always tried to make sure they were challenging. Sometimes I didn't achieve them, but other times I did. If I did achieve them, then I knew, okay, next year I need to be more, or I'd change them as it was going. So I had my overall goals, but then I'd also have campaign goals. So you go from Canterbury to the Crusaders, or Crusaders to All Blacks, or vice versa. Had different goals for different things, and they're always different because I needed to concentrate on different things for different teams. So, for example, in the All Blacks early, they didn't need me saying heaps of stuff in the meeting. I just needed to go out there and worry about myself. So one of them was all about being really professional in the way I recovered my body, because I wasn't big enough. I needed to put on weight and muscle. So that was one of my key goals, is nail my gym and my nutrition, which was nothing to do with on-field, but that allowed me to play better on-field.
Man, that's interesting. Real interesting.
I think that's what came out of my way of playing and my way of leading, because the way I look at it is the way you play is the way you lead. And the easiest way to lead well is play well. And everything else comes after that. So that's probably where the start was. And as things evolved and changed from being captain, not captain, senior roles, that's where I just had to keep changing and evolving and working out what is the best thing for this individual, but what's the best thing for the team, and how do I change my behaviour, my skill set. And that's kind of what I think he's talking about there.
Was it other people in the environment that were kind of feeding back, saying, I don't think the team's responding here? Or how did you get that?
I think I played 100 and something games for Crusaders before we won anything. So we won conferences, but then would lose the whole thing. So we had a good enough personnel to win it. And what I worked out was it wasn't about me getting better by 5%, 10%. That wasn't going to change the result. Yes, it would be good for me personally, but not for the team. I learnt I needed to potentially take some things out of my game and give someone else an opportunity to lead, to play better, or whatever it was. And that's when it kind of all clicked. To get everyone to a higher level, I actually had to pull back and not just hammer down. Don't get me wrong, there were still times I had to do that, but that was one way that allowed everyone to grow, space for them to improve, rather than just me being out front and, right, follow me boys, let's just go get stuck in. Yes, you need that element of it, and that would always come out on game day, but it was more from Sunday till Friday I had to leave that space, because then it allowed them to back themselves for game day.
I've heard you in other interviews talk about like tips and tricks, like you physically moved where you sat in team meetings.
Yeah, Timmy Bateman loves this kind of one, because for me as the captain, especially in 2017, we needed someone to lead. So we needed someone to just go, right, this is what's happening, this is how it was going to do. So I sat in the same seat every meeting, and that was because I could go from there to get my boots on to be out on the training field first. I knew if I beat everyone, and by the time they all walked out, whatever, I'd already warmed up and I was driving the pace. Like, come on, let's go, speed up.
That's that lead by example you're talking about, right?
Gotta be more efficient in our time. So we're training, say, 2 hours a day, but we could have done it in an hour and a half. So instead of saying to Razor as the head coach, I did this as well, I said, look, we need to be more efficient from A to B. We're finishing one drill and it's taking us 3 minutes to get there. There's 3 minutes. If we can get that down to 30 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever it is.
So 1%, huh?
Oh, it is. And the easiest way for me was to show that. So instead of me telling everyone else to get to the next drill, as soon as that drill would finish, I'd just sprint off and go to the next drill. And within 3 or 4 weeks, people going, okay, let's race Sam. And then within 5 to 10 weeks, everyone's sprinting across there. Then all of a sudden, I didn't have to be the guy to sprint. I'd actually go slower, talk with the coach, be like, great drill, we need to do this. So I just had to keep being one step ahead. So my first thing was speed up training, transition. So do it. Then once everyone else got that habit of doing it, then I could look back and go, right, let's be more efficient in our drill. So giving that direct feedback at the time, or letting someone that was in a new role an opportunity to be first there, so then they were setting the tone with the skill set or the intensity of the training. And that was just how it kind of started, and it just kept evolving from there. And then I took that from on-field to off-field and worked out how to do it. So I went from the front seat, which was the first out, so I went to the back of the room, and you can see everything from the back of the room. I could see who was scratching on their notebook, who was engaged, who wasn't. When a question was asked, I could see whose head would go down. So then I had to learn, okay, how do I get the best out of this person? Has he done his homework? No. Why not? Is there something going on at home? Is he whatever? And then that just gave me information to then use. So then I'd go solo up to that person, and sometimes it was just a, hey, how you going? And bang, it would come to the surface. Or it was the opposite. Hey, mate, you're going really good. Keep doing what you're doing. And all of a sudden we had these young guys come through in the leadership group that were challenging the guys that were already there. And then all of a sudden competition does amazing things. So the whole standard lifted, all because I'd left space and tried to challenge them in a different way and gave them an opportunity to grow. And that's my small part in it. Obviously there's all these other people that had a massive part in it as well, from coaches, players, senior players, doctors, physios. Everyone had a pretty awesome growth mindset.
How did you know to go sit down the back? Like, was it just one session you did it? Like, how did the idea pop into your head?
It's kind of like we were talking about before. There was different ways to get information. So is that reading a book? Is it listening to a podcast? Is it talking to an experienced player that's been there? Is it talking to an experienced coach that's maybe knows enough about their environment but not there every day? So like I had a couple of good conversations with Robbie Deans, and he, especially 2018, 2019, when I'd been captain one year and we'd been successful. He goes, look, if you keep doing the same things, everyone will catch up and go past. So in my mind, I was like, okay, how do I evolve this? How do I make this better? How do I set this up to be better when I'm actually not there? So if I'm on a rest week with All Blacks, do they play better or do they play worse? So I started looking at things slightly different. And for me, that was very hard to do because me being out the front, that's normal and natural. That's what we had as a family upbringing. That's what we were expected to do. So actually stepping back and going, okay, right, how do I get more out of these guys? Is it's, which way to do it and how to do it? And sometimes I got it wrong. Sometimes I put the wrong person in that role and that made their game suffer, or you could see they weren't ready for it, or potentially I put them there too late and they were a little bit resentful for it. So it's just working out people and working out what they need to be encouraged to go in that space. Sometimes it's the big old carrot, they walk towards it, or it's the gentle push, or potentially the stick in behind.
What was the one I've heard you talk about where you'd ask a question in a meeting or something and you would like count inside your head to wait for someone else to answer before you would take over?
Yep. So that's a Robbie Dean's thing, so like embracing silence. And it's the most common trap to fall into if you are a new coach or a new captain or, in a new role. So someone will say, for example, right, what do we do on this kickoff? So on this kickoff, so I'm asking the question and I'm answering it, rather than say, what do we do on this kickoff? 1, 2, 3. You might get to 20 and you just got to wait. And sometimes you just got to embrace it. And then all of a sudden, someone will give that answer. Someone that's going, okay, I'm getting awkward here. I know the answer to it. And then all of a sudden, the guy that potentially hasn't been leading will step up, and then straight away you got him. You go, look, I know you know the answer. I know you want to lead. So now it's just encouraging him to embrace that new area of growth that they can go to.
It's one of the great things about teams and team environments.
Yep.
Like seeing that come to life and the changes that made within that environment must have been hugely satisfying as well.
Well, that's what Ray's talking around. When someone gives you a bit of stick, it's normally because you get along with them really well. But people sometimes forget connection and team culture. It doesn't mean you have to be best mates. It's more about respect. So do I respect you? Do you respect me? Etc. But when you have that respect, normally there's lots of humour and laughter. And that's normally what gets people through tough times is humour. And it's a good sign when the junior boys are making skits up of the senior players, and the senior players are making skits of the management during pre-season camps and things like that. So I always like seeing that because I know the respect's there, and as soon as the respect's there, you can have a really easy conversation by saying, hey, look, you're playing well, but then you can also have that hard conversation of, hey, look, you're not going to play this week because of X, Y, Z, and you needed to do ABC before you get another opportunity.
Did you enjoy, I mean, I don't think anyone ever enjoys those difficult conversations, but were they made easier because of the connections you'd built?
Yep. Yeah, hugely. And you're right, I never enjoyed the hard ones, and like I was never selecting the team, but sometimes I was following up after the hard conversation to then check in to make sure that that person wasn't going to go and sabotage themselves, the team, etc., going to put a plan in place to do what they needed to be done. And I think the most rewarding thing is when you saw someone have that growth, especially after a hard conversation. And sometimes the hardest conversation is from captain to coach or coach to captain, because that link, you might not agree with that one point, but you've just got to get over and get on with it, rather than sulk or do something different because it's not your idea or not the way you want to do it. You've just got to commit and carry on.
There's another great example in the book about the importance of like who the message comes from sometimes, and it was, I think Sevu Reece had been running late for a few sessions, or his timekeeping hadn't quite been accurate, and then rather than you delivering the message, if it came from Richie Moonga, it kind of made more of an impact.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way would be to ask all your schoolmates, who was your favourite teacher? Someone will say, oh, it was Mr. Who and Who, and or my English teacher, because people like different ways of communicating. And what I learned, because my height, probably the major one is, and my body language, if I gave all the wrong messages with that without even saying anything, people would potentially take it the wrong way. So I had to learn pretty quickly, and this is the same with referees, the way you stand, your body language, the tone of your voice can have a massive effect. So for me, sometimes the easiest message was saying, hey, can you go have that yarn? Because I knew your body language would be way different to mine, and just sometimes through the height.
That's such an interesting insight.
And it's, I see it now with my own children, and if you use the wrong tone with one of them, they'll not be happy. The other one will just deal with it and get on with it. So it's not saying that they're any better or worse. They just like messages in different ways.
In terms of like game day leadership, I remember reading a while back, I think it was when Shag was in charge, that you didn't do any team talks on game day. Like everything was like prepared before that. So if you didn't know what you're doing on game day, then something had been wrong in the process. But what sort of messaging is actually going out on game? Like, are you guys getting in huddles and like racking each other up? Like what actually happens?
Everyone's different. For myself, I would say not a lot. The main reason being is, as you said, if you're trying to deliver that last message on game day, you haven't nailed the week. So if anything, if I was delivering anything, it's just that key first moment. So boys were kicking off, we're kicking long, we want to squeeze them in the corner. Nail your first roll, or whatever it was, because there's no point in talking around the second half or what we want to do there. You've got to nail what's in front of you, what's the process right now. So I never worried too much around amping the boys up. Like, game day's the fun part. That's why we play rugby. That's why we play sport and want to be challenged. So you shouldn't have to motivate them. And it's real easy to see, because as a team member, you go back and look at the effort. So, okay, we're going to intercept try against us. Did 5 guys turn and sprint after that guy, or did everyone stand there and look at each other? Playing for the All Blacks, effort should always be there. So as long as the effort's there, your messaging is pretty minimal. If the effort's not there, then obviously it'll change pretty quickly. But never had to worry about that with the All Blacks or the Crusaders. The effort was always there, and the effort is always rewarded too. So I know some of the greatest highlights you see when you're within a team is when a coach will use you as an example, and it's all about effort, not about talent or your skill level. It's around how quickly you got off the ground, or you turned and made that covering tackle, chase that charge down. So I know that's something that I'm definitely hoping to take from rugby into the real world, which we're in now, is that effort side of it.
I was so looking forward to this chat about exactly this, the leadership stuff. Like, you got such valuable IP there. How many times have you been shoulder tapped since you retired to join a coaching staff?